My girlfriend cheated while I paid off her student loans, so I took her apartment and disappeared. Now she begs me to forgive her mistake. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I thought I was building the future every man dreams of with the woman I loved. Lily came into my life when I was 20. She was in grad school, constantly stressed, juggling exams, part-time shifts, and a mountain of student loans. I was already working full-time as an electrician, doing long nights and weekend jobs just to make ends meet. She used to tell me I was her stability, her calm in the chaos, and I believed her at first. I didn't mind helping her out. I'd bring over groceries when her fridge was empty, pay for her textbooks when her card got declined, and later, when things got serious, I even started chipping away at her student loans. I told myself it was an investment in USN, the future we were building together. There are debts, I'd say, smiling as I sent another payment. It made me proud to feel like I could lift some of her burden. There were nights when I'd come home exhausted, clothes smelling like copper and sweat, only to find her half asleep on the couch, surrounded by notes and coffee cups. I'd rub her shoulders and tell her everything would be okay. She'd look up at me with that tired smile and whisper, "I don't know what I'd do without you." And in those moments, I believed she meant it. But somewhere between the bills, the overtime, and her long study sessions, something in her changed. She started spending less time with me, more with her friends from the lab. I brushed it off as stress. Then one night, after I paid another loan installment, she looked at me and said, almost absent-mindedly, "You know, money can't buy real love." I laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, but the way she didn't look up, the way her tone felt sharp beneath the softness, something in my chest tightened. But that single sentence was the first crack in everything I thought we were building. After that night, something in the air between us shifted. I couldn't quite explain it, but the warmth we used to share started to feel conditional. Lily became quieter. She'd stay late on campus, claiming she was finishing a project or helping a classmate. At first, I didn't question it. She'd worked so hard for years. She deserved a little space. That's what I told myself every time she ignored my texts or came home after midnight smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. I tried to keep our routine alive, made her coffee before work, left little notes on the fridge, even cooked dinner for us when she said she was too tired. But she stopped noticing. She'd scroll through her phone, giggle at messages, and mutter half-hearted thanks while eating in silence. The girl who once fell asleep on my chest now slept facing the wall. One evening, while folding laundry, I saw a receipt in her jacket pocket, 2 glasses of wine, 1 dinner entree, and a dessert. I stared at the name of the restaurant, a romantic place we used to go for anniversaries. My stomach twisted. When I asked her about it later, she didn't even flinch. "It was just a group dinner," she said. "Don't start acting paranoid." I wanted to believe her. I needed to, because the alternative meant accepting that all my sacrifices, the loans, the bills, the overtime were for someone who was slowly slipping away from me a week later. I overheard her on the phone laughing softly. "Jake, stop, you're so bad," she whispered before her voice dropped to a tone I hadn't heard in months. When she saw me in the doorway, she froze, then forced a smile. "Just a classmate," she said, voice trembling that night. As she turned off the lights and pretended to sleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling, listening to the silent stretch between us, knowing deep down something sacred had already begun to break. A few months later, Lily finally graduated. I remember how proud I felt watching her walk across that stage, her gown flowing, the sunlight catching the edge of her hair. She looked like everything I'd worked for, everything I'd believed in. I told myself that once she started her new job, we'd get back to how we used to be. No more stress, no more distance. Just after graduation, she landed a decent job downtown. Her excitement was infectious. She talked about independence, success, and new beginnings. I wanted to support that, so when she mentioned finding an apartment closer to work, I offered to help. Her credit was still shot from her loans, so the lease went under my name. I didn't think twice about it. "It's our place," I said, smiling. A fresh start. The first few weeks were good. I came home to her cooking, laughter echoing off the new walls, plans for furniture, vacations, and the future. For a brief moment, I believed things were finally turning around. But slowly, that warmth began to fade again. She started dressing differently, sharper, more polished. She came home late, claiming networking dinners and team events. Her phone was always face down on the counter, her laptop always locked. One night, I told her I missed her. She sighed, not even looking up from her screen. "You're just used to me being dependent on you," she said flatly. "I'm finally doing something for myself." Her words cut deep, sharper than she probably meant. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded, pretending to understand. A week later, as I stood in our empty kitchen cleaning up her wine glasses from another late meeting, she said it again, this time without hesitation. "Maybe we should take some space. I need to figure things out." I stared at her, speechless. Space. After everything I'd built for her, everything I'd given up. In that moment, I realized love wasn't slipping away. It was already gone. A few weeks after she asked for space, I was still living in that apartment tower apartment alone most nights. Lily said she was staying with coworkers or visiting family, but her absences stretched longer each time. I kept hoping she'd come back to me, that this was just a phase. But that hope started to feel like a noose tightening around my chest. One Saturday, I decided to do something nice, clean up the place, maybe cook her favorite pasta, try to spark some kind of normalcy again. While tidying her desk, I knocked over a small jewelry box. It fell open, spilling receipts, old rings, and a phone I didn't recognize. My stomach went cold. It wasn't her main one eye. Knew that by the cracked corner and a different case. My hand trembled as I pressed the power button. It lit up instantly, no password. The messages were the first blow. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one read. Another, "Last night was amazing. You're all I think about." My heart pounded so hard it drowned out the world. Then the photos Lily smiling in restaurants, in hotel rooms, even in the shirt I bought her for our anniversary. But with someone else. His name was right there at the top of the thread. Jake. The air felt thick, heavy. My throat burned as if I'd swallowed glass. Every sacrifice, every extra hour I'd worked, every bill I'd paid, all came crashing down like a cruel joke. When she came home that night, I was sitting at the table, the phone in front of me. She froze. "Where did you get that?" She whispered. "I should be asking you that," I said quietly. Her eyes filled with panic. "It's not what it looks like." But the words that came next were worse than silence. "I didn't ask you to save me," she said. "You chose to." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I realized I wasn't losing her. She'd been gone long before I ever found that phone. After that confrontation, the apartment turned into a war zone of silence. Lily didn't apologize. She didn't even try. She just stood there with her arms crossed, her eyes cold and detached, like she was talking to a stranger. "You smothered me," she said. "You made me feel like I owed you something." I remember laughing, an ugly, broken sound I didn't recognize as mine. "Owed me?" I said, voice cracking. "I worked double shifts to pay off your debt. I built this life for us." She shook her head, her tone dismissive. "No, you built it for yourself. You wanted to be the hero." That line burned deeper than anything else. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting the story, turning my loyalty into control, my sacrifices into selfishness. And in that moment, I realized there was no winning this. "Asterisk," she cried later, "of course." Said she didn't mean for it to happen, that Jake understood her in ways I never could. The kind of cliches that only make betrayal sound worse. When I told her to pack her things and leave, she refused. Her name wasn't on the lease, and she knew it. "You can't just kick me out," she snapped. "I have nowhere else to go." So I walked out instead, took my jacket, my keys, and left her there in that apartment I'd paid for. I spent the night on my buddy Mark's couch, staring at the ceiling. The sound of her words looping in my head. I thought about all those nights I'd stayed late just to make her life easier. All the love I'd poured into someone who only saw it as weakness. The next morning, my phone was filled with messages from her. Some angry, some desperate. "Don't ruin this," she said. "We can fix it." But as I scrolled through them, my eyes stopped on the lease paperwork saved on my phone, my name, printed bold and alone at the top. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't as powerless as she thought. That lease became my lifeline. The one thing I still had control over in a world that had fallen apart. For days, I went through every emotion donger, grief, disgust, but eventually, something else crept in. Clarity. I realized I didn't owe her closure, explanations, or another chance. What I owed myself was peace. But peace doesn't come easily when you've been humiliated. So, instead of confronting her again, I did something I never thought I'd do. I planned my revenge quietly. When Lily texted asking me to talk, I played along. I told her I needed time to think, that maybe we could start over. Her replies came fast, full of apologies and sweet words she never meant before. "I'll prove to you I've changed," she said. I told her I believed her. I didn't. While she was at work, I started transferring the apartment utilities to my name alone. I backed up my important documents, moved my savings to a new account, and started selling off the expensive furniture she'd bought using my money. Every night, I'd lie beside her pretending everything was fine, memorizing the rhythm of her lies. Then came her girls' weekend trip. She packed her bags, kissed my cheek like old times, and said, "When I get back, I want us to start fresh." I watched her walk out the door, her suitcase wheels clacking against the hallway tiles. The moment the elevator doors closed, I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding that night. I packed everything that mattered: tools, clothes, my father's old watch. I looked around the apartment one last time. Every corner of it screamed of her betrayal. And as the morning light hit the windows, I made my decision when she came back from her trip. She'd find out exactly what starting fresh really meant. The morning she left for her trip, I waited until her train was confirmed on the tracker. Then I started moving. I had everything planned down to the hour. Years of overthinking and fixing other people's problems had finally paid off. Only this time, I wasn't fixing hers. I was fixing mine. I packed the essentials: clothes, documents, the few personal things she hadn't tainted. The rest, I sold or donated. The furniture, the TV, even the fancy kitchen appliances she bragged about owning. I used the money to clear the last rent payment, shut off her access to the Wi-Fi, and called the landlord to officially remove her from the file. Since everything was under my name, no questions were asked. By sunset, the apartment was stripped bare. I stood in the middle of that empty space, the echo of my footsteps replacing all the laughter and lies that once filled it. For the first time in years, it was quiet. No guilt, no manipulation, just silence. I left the keys on the counter with a note that simply said, "You were right. Money can't buy love, but it can take back everything it built." Then I locked the door behind me, dropped the spare key into the mailbox, and walked away without looking back. I checked into a small motel a few towns over. My phone buzzed, nonstop calls, messages, notifications from Lily. I didn't answer a single one. By morning, I'd switched SIM cards, deleted all her contacts, and deactivated our shared accounts. I'd erased myself from her world 2 days later. A voicemail came through, her voice shaking, furious. "Where are you? What did you do? You can't just disappear." But I could. And as I lay back on that lumpy motel bed, listening to her panic through the thin speaker, I smiled for the first time in months. Because for once, she was the one left behind. The next morning, I woke up to over 40 missed calls. The voicemail list was a mix of panic, rage, and denial, each one more desperate than the last. I didn't listen to most of them, but one started mid-scream. "You can't do this to me." Then a sob. "Please, just talk to me. We can fix it." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Every sound of her voice felt like poison dripping into old wounds. By noon, I'd gotten messages from her friends too. Some called me cruel, others begged me to come back and hear her out. Apparently, she'd told everyone I stole the apartment and left her homeless. The irony almost made me laugh. She'd stolen my peace long before I ever took those keys. Over the next few days, she spiraled. She showed up at my old job asking for me, left handwritten letters at my friend Mark's place, even tried to call my mother. Each message was the same desperate pattern: apology, guilt, manipulation. "I know I messed up, but I need you. You were the only one who ever cared." But I didn't bite. I'd lived too long in her cycle of chaos to go back. Instead, I started rebuilding, got a small apartment across town. Focused on work, reconnected with people I'd pushed away while I was drowning in her world. Nights were still hard. I'd lie awake, replaying her voice, wondering how love could rot into something so hollow. A week later, one of Lily's friends texted me. "She's not doing well. She says she'd do anything to make things right." For a moment, guilt pricked the back of my throat. But then I remembered the phone, the lies, The way she said, "You chose to save me." And for the first time, I realized she was right. But now, I was finally saving myself. It's funny how even when someone destroys you, a part of you still aches for them. I thought I was done feeling anything for Lily, but after a few weeks of silence, that guilt began to claw its way back in. Every night, I replayed our memories like a film stuck on loop, the long drives. The late-night laughter, the way she used to trace my hand when we talked about the future. It hurt more to realize those moments were real for me, but just convenient for her. Then came the call I should have ignored. Her voice was small, broken. "I just need to talk," she whispered. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. When she walked in, I barely recognized her dark circles, messy hair, eyes swollen from crying. The confident woman now looked like someone who'd been emptied out. She didn't start with excuses. She started with confessions. Jake had dumped her. He'd used her, lied to her, and then ghosted when she lost her job. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I thought I was finally choosing myself," she said, voice trembling, "but I destroyed everything instead." I stared at her, torn between anger and pity. "You didn't destroy everything," I said quietly, "just the person who would have done anything for you." She reached across the table, her hand shaking. "Please, I just want to fix this. I know I hurt you, but I can change." Her words cracked something inside me, not because I believed her, but because I realized I didn't anymore. Whatever love I once had for her had turned into ashes I couldn't hold on to. I stood up, leaving a few bills on the table. "You're not the person I fell in love with," I said. She started crying, whispering my name, but I kept walking. For the first time, it wasn't anger that filled me. It was freedom. In the weeks after that meeting, something in me finally quieted. For the first time in years, I wasn't checking my phone every few minutes or replaying arguments in my head. The silence that used to suffocate me now felt peaceful, like I could finally breathe. Without waiting for the next explosion, I found a small one-bedroom apartment near the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The walls were bare, the furniture mismatched, but the air carried no trace of her perfume or her lies. I worked long hours, kept to myself, and started going on runs before sunrise. The rhythm of my footsteps on the pavement became therapy each stride, a reminder that I was still here, still moving forward. Sometimes, guilt tried to sneak back in. I'd think about the money, the time, the love I'd wasted. But then I'd remember that I hadn't lost everything, I just paid the price for my freedom. One night, while cleaning out old files on my laptop, I stumbled upon the spreadsheet I used to track Lily's loan payments. For a moment, the sight of those numbers made my chest tighten. Then I deleted it. All of it. The debt, the records, the proof of my devotion, it didn't matter anymore. A few days later, I donated the rest of my savings I had set aside for her final loan payment to a student debt relief charity. I didn't need the money to feel whole again. I just needed to let it go. As I stood there filling out the donation form, a strange calm washed over me. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was free. And in that stillness, I finally understood peace doesn't come when you get even. It comes when you stop carrying the weight of people who never deserved you. 6 months passed. Life had settled into something: steady work, quiet mornings, peace. I barely thought about Lily anymore, at least not until her name flashed across my phone one evening. The message was short, almost clinical. "Please call me. It's important." For a second, I considered ignoring it. But some part of me, the old bleeding part, still needed to know why. When I finally called, her voice trembled. "I need to see you," she said. "It's about something serious." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet in a park halfway between us. She looked different, tired, pale, and nervous. After a long silence, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant." My stomach dropped. Before I could even process it, she added, "It might be yours." Every muscle in my body tensed. "Might." The word echoed in my head like a gunshot. I hadn't seen her in months. "What do you mean, might?" I asked, my voice low. She looked away. "After you left, Jake came back. We tried again, but it didn't work. When I found out, I panicked. I need to know." I felt sick. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to walk away right there. But another part, the one that always tried to do the right thing, agreed to the DNA test. Waiting for the results felt like torture. reopening wounds I thought had healed. When the call finally came, the nurse's tone was matter-of-fact. "You are not the father." I don't know what I expected to feel: relief, anger, maybe both. But what I felt was nothing, just emptiness. I met Lily one last time to hand her the results. She read them in silence, tears streaking her face. "I just wanted to fix things," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, you just wanted another savior." And for the first time, she didn't argue. She just nodded, broken, as if she finally understood what she'd lost. It's strange how life comes full circle. A year ago, I was a man drowning in someone else's chaos. Now I wake up to the sound of quiet, make my own coffee, and go to work without the weight of resentment dragging behind me. The scars are still there, but they don't hurt anymore. They remind me of what I survived. I never saw Lily again after that last meeting. She stopped reaching out, stopped trying to twist the story, and for that, I was grateful. Every now and then, her name would pop up in my mind, like an old song I used to love but can't listen to anymore. I didn't hate her, not anymore. Hatred kept me tied to her, and I was done being tied to anything that hurt. One night, I found myself scrolling through Reddit reading other people's confessions, heartbreaks, betrayals. Their pain felt familiar, like echoes of my own. That's when I decided to write it all down. Not for revenge, not for sympathy, but because stories like mine deserve to be told. Maybe someone out there sitting in the dark thinking they're alone would read it and realize they're not. When I hit post, I didn't expect much. But within hours, the comments flooded in hundreds of strangers telling me they'd been there too. Some called me strong, others said my story gave them courage to walk away from their own toxic partners. Reading those messages, something inside me finally clicked. I hadn't just taken her apartment or her silent side, taken back my life, my peace, my worth. Looking back now, I understand what real love should feel like. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't demand your pain as proof. Lily once said, "Money can't buy real love." She was right. But losing her taught me something: even truer real love doesn't need saving. It just needs truth.